What's going on, everybody? This is Lamar with the Grit, Grace, and Progress. I have my main man over here, Lawrence, right here in Dallas. And then we have a guest here, E.B. Smith. E.B. Smith is a friend of mine from Ohio. Done a lot of stuff together, from music to, man, just a little bit of everything. Causing that good trouble in Cleveland.
Right.
He also sang at my wedding. So this is a
Yeah.
talented brother right here. But we're going to jump right into some things here. So one of the issues that I want to just run down right quick. We're going to talk a little bit about Pope Leo XIV, the new Pope that was, that conclave thing, for instance, how they go through that whole process. That was kind of interesting. And then we're going to talk a little bit about NIL deals. Is it good or bad for sports? And should Congress get involved? The other topic we're going to talk about is going to be Shiloh Hendricks. She's the one that called this little 5-year autistic boy the N-word, and then chaos has erupted because she has raised over $700,000 for her defense. And everybody's like criticizing this, but then, well, we'll get into a little bit more. And the last thing we want to talk about is Rodney Hinton Jr. He's the guy who, after seeing his son murdered by the cops on video, went into a rage and got into his car a couple hours later and ran over a police officer. So it's these some hot topics, things that are controversial, but yet they are also ways that if we look at it and dissect it down, we can create healing in our country over these different issues. Who was that just popped in? But yeah. I want to go with you right quick, Lawrence. On this, we're going to start with the Shiloh. Actually, I'm going to show the video first, and then we'll go from there after showing the video.
Sure.
Oh, I got Greg in here.
Yep.
Okay, 1 second, Greg. We're about to show a video. Stand by.
Welcome and thank you for joining us for the second half hour of The Factor Uncensored. A woman in Minnesota has raised over $1 million asking for protection for her family after she went viral in a video where she admitted to calling an autistic black child the N-word. Her name is Shiloh Hendricks. She says her family has been in jeopardy since the video went public. As of tonight, that GoFundMe page is no longer available, so we're not sure what happened to the money, if she removed it or what. Here's the latest and the moment Hendricks was confronted on video.
That little kid, you call him the little child?
What if he acts like one? He's gonna.
Are you about to hit him? You chase him here?
He took my son's stuff.
So that gives you the right to call a child, 5-year-old, an N-word.
If that's what he's gonna act.
That's
like.
what you're gonna call him.
That's what he's gonna act like.
You know, that's a hate speech.
The question is this our America? My next guest is Dante King, author and human resource.
I'm going to just stop it right there because I'm not going to go into the rest of the commentary from other people there. But that was Isaiah Factor on Fox, and that was I just want to get a clip of that so you can see what was going on. But the issue that I have with this is, okay, I'm going to use two comparisons. Right now, there's been a lot of uproar in the Dallas-Fort Worth area with Carmelo Anthony, the stabbing of I can't think of his first name, but last name was Metcalf. A white kid, Anthony Carmelo, is a black kid, high schooler, stabbed a white kid in the chest, killed him over altercation. Anthony is saying he did it in self-defense, where the city is really in uproar because they're saying that the defense is getting all this money for his defense. Now I'll switch to this story, because like I said, Carmelo Anthony said it was self-defense in that situation. In this situation, this lady just blatantly didn't care of hate speech and an autistic kid, and she's raising money. Now, apparently this video was before she had another crowdfunding source, which is, I think is Give Send or something like that, and she's raised tons of money. What makes this situation that much worse is that those that are sending the money in the comments are using hate speech. They're using very vulgar terms, and they're even identifying themselves as stupid names. You know, they're changing words around, but using it in a really derogatory way, insulting black people. My question to you all is, and it doesn't matter which one go first, is crowdfunding a good source for a defense, and when should it be used in a defense? Let's go with EB first on that.
Oh, me first. There's a whole lot of that's really unpack this. Um, when we violate crimes in this country, everybody has to follow the same rules, right? That's the most famous thing we hear on YouTube videos when police arrest people is forcing people to listen to Miranda rights. And the reason for that is because there is a rule or there's an expectation that everyone should be treated, let me quote, justly, right? And one of the things in this country that heavily relies on that puts the pressure on us being just is giving people an opportunity to have somebody represent them fairly. Well, fortunately and unfortunately, that can be very expensive. When people violate the law, they need a lawyer, period. When they need a lawyer, they need money. And when they need money, they need to find ways to get it. If you cannot afford the lawyer, you should not, period. Crowdfunding and defending people that violate other people's human rights is a topic that we ought to be talking about a lot more because that's what this is. Someone's human rights have been violated. And now you want to get a lawyer paid for by the public who have other motives for giving you money. And then you leave it open for them to comment on and to be able to be part of maybe racism, right? In this case, with this lady, she was a racist. There's no doubt about it. And so she drew in a lot more racists. She has a right to crowdfund to get help to pay an attorney, I guess. But when that happens, what we're saying now is there's a third option. The court will get a lawyer for you. You could afford one, or we can borrow money from the public to have one. In that case, that option ought to be available to everyone that commits a crime. So is she saying she committed a crime? So that's what I'm saying. There's a whole lot here to unpack. And so just for a brief moment, I'll just say that crowdfunding is everyone's option to do that. But to me, when you're doing that, you're saying that I have used all of my options. I'm willing to pay the price for the things that I've done. But now she is saying, people like her are saying, I'm going to allow other people to contribute to me violating someone else's human rights. So it's really one of those things where it depends on what side of the rule that you place yourself on. Me borrowing money getting money from my friends because I want to rob a bank and get an attorney. If we were all talking about that, this show would last 2 seconds because we think it's ridiculous. But yet this has some kind of, we kind of forget about it when someone's violating some other person's human rights, because I think it becomes more, my opinion is that that's not happening. That truly, that's what's happening here. She's violating someone's human rights and she's asking the public to help defend against her doing that.
Right. No, I totally agree with that. What happened to my shot there? I'm not sure what went on there, but there you go. Had the wrong shot up the whole time. Sorry about that. Yeah, but I totally agree with you. What about you, Lawrence?
Yeah, there are, with everything, there can always be a bad side to it, right? Things that are meant for good can always be twisted and made, to work for evil. America is always going to show us who they are. I mean, white America hasn't lied to us once. We just tend to look at the bright side sometimes and think everything is fine. When they're quiet and when they are seem to be a friend or an ally, we think everything's okay. And then it just takes that one moment that reminds us, no, America's going to be America no matter what is happening. whether you're black, brown, Asian, whatever, Native American, you're going to one day have to deal with the fact that America is going to show you that they don't value you unless you are entertaining them, unless you are making them money, unless you are benefiting them in some way, shape, or form. So this doesn't shock me. You know, the fact that there's millions of people out there that want to, crowdfund this person for being a crappy human being. It does not surprise me at all, because on the other end, you're going to have another person that's going to probably deserve some financial help, but won't get this outpour of support. It's the crazy side of it, where things that are supposed to be, pushed and moved forward and applauded and supported doesn't get the amount of I guess support that it should get, when we have other people out here just being trash human beings and being rewarded for it.
Right.
And that's just how it is.
Yeah, I just keep looking at this thing on my screen. Why my screens keep jacking up like this? But totally agree with you with what you're saying. And the thing about it is that what makes hey, mute your mic, Greg. What makes it where you were saying earlier that at some point people have to realize, because you're looking at it from white Americans making their stance on it or their mark on it, and then every nationality, they can be kind of in agreement until it affects them, is what you're saying, to a certain extent. So
yeah,
what's going to get to the point, like Evie said, everyone has the right to a defense, but where does it get to a point where it doesn't matter what their racial background is, that we as a country says, okay, well, I can take it back, because we've seen situations where a person looks guilty and they're really not guilty. I mean, when evidence comes out. But in her situation, she's on video blatantly degrading a 5-year-old autistic kid, blatantly, with no regard. And then she says, if you want to act like one. What does acting like an N-word, what does that look like? There's never been an act of a actual description from a person who says that. You can go from an old school Webster dictionary. If you look at it from a dictionary standpoint, heck, there's a little bit of everybody that can fit that description, no matter what your ethnic background is. Shiftless, lazy. I mean, I work with some lazy folks. You know what I'm saying? I know what they look like. You ask for this today, get this down for me. Oh, my bad, I forgot. That's lazy and shiftless. And they weren't black. So my concern with this is, and to bring some more context to this story, like I said, there was a lot of donations by people that were considered. Why does my screens keep acting up? It was some situation where the crowdfunding was by people who were blatantly racist in so many ways, blatantly racist. And then we find out that majority of the money for her crowdfunding came from a Christian organization. Now that brings me to another issue here. People claim to be Christians. My question is, do some of these Christians, do they actually follow Jesus? That's one of my biggest questions, because then you get into the question of, was Jesus real? Was he not real? Then it goes to a whole down another rabbit hole. But I'm sure you understand what I'm saying, because I could go back to the Kyle Rittenhouse situation, where as a Christian you would think, okay, is this what we're trying to represent in our country? And I know Greg has a lot to say about this, because I can see it in his face. It's like, go ahead, Greg, give me what you got, man. I know you're going to come with your community topic, about being the community, but give me some realness on that part of it from a Christian standpoint.
I first want to go back to understanding the basis of this, the money, donation, the crowdsource funding, whatever. Whiteness always wants to stay invisible.
Okay.
And the source funding was to help people that are coming up short, that have something, a funeral, somebody sick. It reaches out to the heart of those people anonymously who want to try to help a situation. And that's all good. The problem comes when they now weaponize it and make it a social platform, because everybody loves this illusion of power and control.
Right.
And so if I give you enough money, then you got the power to do the things that I want you to do. And because you believe like I believe, I'm going to quote unquote sponsor you to do some things. No telling what else that lady is going to be asked for because of the money that was given. We've seen it misrepresented, and in any good thing, like Lawrence said, that we can twist it and make it bad.
Right.
But the reality is, America has been waiting for this moment where I can no longer have to put a hood on and hide. I no longer have to worry about what reasons are going to come to me, because the richest people in the world all back a 34 count felon convicted who now occupies the White House. But what they don't understand is that God is still on the throne. And so the Christian organization that used the name of Christ to give that money probably is not very Christian at all. And a lot of times people want to use the word Christian when they don't want to follow the established doctrine of the established denominations that exist. Because once you're making me do something I don't like or take a look at myself, then I don't want to play your game anymore. And so I think that they hide behind the name of Christ,
Right.
and that's going to come around and bite them.
Right. So
That's just my personal.
have you? I know I have, since I call it the era of Trump, is that I've seen Christian organizations where you've seen that type of identity, where it's more of a pro-white mentality when it and touting Jesus Christ at the same time. There's nothing wrong with being proud and stand by your ethnicity. And it is, as we know, race is a made up construct. So whiteness is not even a real thing. It's something that was made up for a specific reason. So when you come down to it, you have these, I would say, European descendants that have taken the identity of their skin color and then put Jesus Christ behind that. Instead of Jesus Christ here and then them, they put them and then Jesus Christ. And it's almost like they're making it seem like what they're doing is okay because they're Christians, which doesn't make sense, because you can take a pro-black person the same way, and they're out there as well. They put their blackness above their relationship with God here, when it should be the other way around. It should be God over everything, and then it filters down. But when I look at that lady in that video, it will make me think that this is who she is and who she's always been. But we know when it comes to court, there's going to be a different characterization of how she is as a person. I take it back to the two kids from Frisco, Texas. To me, I look at not a race issue, where in the case with Shiloh Hendricks was a race issue. But with Carmelo Anthony and Metcalf, it wasn't a racial issue. It was two teenagers that had an altercation that got out of hand. And the social media and the public made it a race issue. The thing with these two young men was that from what we see from testimonies is that these were two good kids. These were two smart kids. They were two athletic kids who were, getting scholarships for college. Their race wasn't a factor in who they were in a sense of that altercation. When I look at this altercation with Shiloh Hendricks, was that you have a grown woman basically versus a kid. It's like, where's any type of compassion? Now, for what I understand, she was saying that the kid took something out of her kid's bag or something. That was a kid. I don't think he intentionally was trying to steal something. He probably, I mean, we all had kids that go take another kid's toy. Kids do stuff. They see it, they want to take, but it's not taking it as a criminal act. And for her to respond like that was hurting for me. So getting back to the crowdfunding, where does it stop? Or this could be something that's going to escalate for a long time. Every time there's a crime happen and you want to defend that person because of what the person looks like, and you're going to raise money. If I can bring up some of the context, if I could find it, I didn't look at the crowdfunding, but I was hearing it on
Marv, let me chime in here real quick.
Go ahead.
Thank goodness for Lawrence opening up that door, and this great brother. I'm sorry, your name again, brother.
Greg.
George. Greg brought up. Thank you, Lawrence, for opening that door. Whiteness, and one thing about America is his statement was so perfect. I don't know. I could just expound it a little better. They're gonna eventually show you who they are. All you gotta do is wait. If you let them talk long enough, they're gonna show you who they are.
Yeah.
I'm gonna expand a little bit more, and I hope that I don't hurt anybody's feelings with this. If you're a devout Christian, I'm gonna say this. They've always offended us through Christianity. That's how they did it.
True.
That's how it's always done, right? There is not one incident that has happened in the last 2 years where that wasn't brought in. What if that did not exist? What if we all had the same faith together? What if let me say it like this way. What if faith wasn't even a conversation? Then what would they use? I think that they believe that it makes sense when they use doctrine that we have been agreeing to for over 400 years. Doctrine that those of us who acknowledge that there are some discrepancies, that has omitted the contributions of Africans, right? When we allow the dominant culture to define the narrative that speaks on who we are as a people, then whatever they use, whether it's Christianity, whether it's patriotism, we allow them to label us beyond our culture, beyond our feelings, beyond our spirit, beyond what our contributions are. So yeah, when the first thing they say is, well, God didn't want our country like this. And then you take little kids and lock them in cages and call them immigrants. When in reality, let me flashpoint, not one European descendant can trace their ancestry back to America. Not one. Not one. Yet we have allowed them to define everyone as an immigrant. Imagine what it'd be like if we said, okay, we're all immigrants. Now, how do we tackle this thing? That's one part of it. The second part is the reason why we haven't had all of the success that we had pre-1964. I mean, at 1964, because let me put a note here. There hasn't been any black legislation passed that's significant beyond the Civil Rights Act, period. Nothing. And who led that movement? The Jewish and Christian movement, along with the people that didn't like poverty. Maybe the Catholics got involved in that. Well, that tide turned when people took over that religion and took over the narrative of the religion and said, we want a country that's patriotic, that has nothing to do with salvation. We want a country that's committed to the people of the country, that's nothing to do about salvation. Those things changed the progress we made in this country in the peace with African Americans, right? Even the way we call ourselves, right? We used to say Negro. We used to say, I'm black and I'm proud. Now we have reduced ourselves to terms that mean that we're both African and American. Why don't we just say we African descendants and leave it, let it be? The reason why we can't say that is because some people make us feel like we're separating ourselves. And if we start doing that, then they call us segregationists. And if they call us segregationists, that creates another argument. Let's be real. Let's go back to what my brother said, both my brothers alluded to here. There is a whiteness that dominates our country that is not going to be easily solved. And we is being perpetuated more and more and more by extreme racist people because some of us, black and white, got a little bit of racism in us, or just to say we want certain people around us. But then it becomes extreme when you do disrespectful things. Again, I think we ought to just go back to what violates human rights for people. Whether you're black, brown, purple, or green, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna add this in, even if you're gay or straight, there's some human rights issues we ought to hold people accountable for. Until we do that, someone's gonna always create a narrative to treat us, which is they say we're a minority. I beg to differ. There's some things happening here that creates bigger majority for us than anything else. But anyway, um, I think that we just need to tell the truth. It's going to make some people feel uncomfortable. Let me put a note here that Trump got the largest amount of black vote than any other Republican. That says that the narrative has been accepted by the assimilationists, the people in our group that call us brothers, that our next door neighbors that have cut grass with us, play pool with us, agree with them, not us.
And yeah, and so I mean that's a great point. And on that end, yeah, those black folks that decided to align themselves with whiteness or what is perceived as whiteness, they have a whole nother set of issues that they need to deal with because they got to look themselves in the mirror and realize what they just did is going, if they're not feeling it yet, they're going to feel it, right? There's this other thing where, and of course, not all white people, but there's this overwhelming group of white folks that think Christianity is this great what's the word I want to use? But it makes me feel good about what I just did, right? I can hang a Negro on Saturday and go to church and sing my hymns on Sunday. I can rape a black woman on Tuesday and go to church on Sunday and all my sins are washed away. It's like they told this line of I'm good when I want to be. When if you take Christianity out of it, like you just said, just be a good person. I mean, at the basic level, just be a good person, respect others, try not to be a trash human being, try to put a positive drop of your life in everybody else's world when you wake up in the morning. When I wake up in the morning, I just be like, I'm just gonna be a good person, period. Because as a black person, that's the basic thing that you want to worry about. Just being a good person,
Right.
not driving down the street and getting pulled over and now I'm harassed. I'm like, what did I just do?
Right.
You know, and then so let's go back a little bit more. So with some of these white people, I'm not gonna say all, with some of them, there's this joke that most black people, have about some white folks that they don't have a culture, they don't have anything, so they're always trying to dib and dab in everybody else's culture and dib and dab in everybody else's music, style, genres, all the things, right? And so the only culture they have, they're tapping back into it. It's like we came here to rob, steal, kill, and destroy. So we might as well go out, rob, stealing, killing, and destroy. And some people, this woman called this little boy the N-word because he supposedly stole something or attempted to steal something. Well, if he's an N-word, then there's a whole bunch of white N-words out there acting like N-words on a daily basis. But they go to church and be like, all my sins are washed away. Thank you, Jesus Christ, for saving me.
Mm-hmm.
But then they go to work and they just do whatever.
Right.
They blow their horn at you and all the other things.
Yeah.
Disrespect their wives, they disrespect us. They just run around just being disrespectful. But, oh, woe is me. Don't call me, don't call me out for what I just did. Right. I am a victim. I am a victim here. Please, please protect me and my family because I'm a trash human being. So please protect me. Come on, y'all. This makes no sense at all.
No, you're absolutely right on that. I mean, she was a trash human. She was definitely a trash human being on that day. I mean, we got full video footage of it. And so, as we see, we all agree to the same point that there is this. Go ahead, Greg.
Go ahead.
You brothers are on it today. I don't know. I have a different perspective because I brought my spirituality to the church. I had vowed never to be involved with the church. The hypocrisy on the white side, on the black side, it was all a power grab. Who's going to be on top? Who gets to rule over everybody else? Who gets to tell somebody they going to hell and they wrong? I I I got in through recovery from addiction. I got a one-to-one relationship with the God of my understanding. And my brother, he was also involved with a church for a different reason. But he said to me, you talk about your higher power. I just know my higher power's name. And then I start connecting dots and I start understanding that my parents, bless them, they're still alive, were resisting whiteness in their own way for the last 70 years. They've been married together. Whiteness needs attention. When you take attention away from it, they don't know what to do with themselves. And what's going on in this country right now is whiteness has been told your days are numbered. You're going to be outnumbered in about another 30, 40 years. All those things that you did, but I take issue with calling us migrants. And I take issue with people thinking that they have the power to control another person. It is not that I allow you. You think that you can do it without consequence. We've just been conditioned because of circumstances that our consequence, our reaction and consequence for that reaction is a whole lot harsher for those who are white. Just plain and simple. That boy Carmelo killed that boy. It was because of race to them. Because that's all they see when they see us. When they see us, they see this tattoo God has blessed me with. But this tattoo makes me hold you accountable to, are you doing what you're doing because of what you see or because of how you feel? Because if you're only caught up in what you see, then you don't feel anything anyway. I gotta wake up your spirit. Spiritual awakening is something that's felt real deep inside. So what you're seeing is all of the crud bubbling to the top of this cauldron called America, which was built on all the dregs of all the people that didn't want to conform to the rules where they were living. And they said, oh, we can go to the colonies. And then they got over here. There were people already over here, tried to teach them how to live. They killed them. And then now what we going to do? Oh, they disappeared without a trace. We don't know what happened to them first colonizers.
Mhm. Yeah,
Let's bring somebody who knows how to do the thing.
right. Got you.
So they recognize us for who we are.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. I'm going to go into, I'm going to pivot a little bit. I think we got a gist of how that all played out with Shiloh Hendricks and how it's going to probably play out heading on. But there's another incident that happened. I know you heard about the Rodney Hinton Jr. Issue. The father who his son was killed by the cops, and he kind of lost it and ran a cop over a couple hours after watching the video. So I want to bring in a little bit about this video here. This is his attorney speaking on the basis of, at that moment, he was mentally out of his mind when he committed this crime of running over this cop because of the emotional sense of watching his son and the body cam video. Stand by for that.
Did we lose them?
No, we didn't lose him. He lost the video.
Yeah.
Healthcare providers, and he's receiving medication for the mental diagnoses. That constitutes a defect at this point.
So this is going to be not guilty by reason of insanity?
Potentially, yes. That's basically from what I've seen so far, and I haven't gotten all of the evidence. Really, I haven't gotten any evidence from the government. I've got it from my investigator. But from what I've seen so far, this is what it appears to me. Yes.
Okay, I want to back up on something that you initially said. You said unjustifiably killed. His son was unjustifiably killed. People would take issue with that as well. And that is going to be something that we're going to be looking at because there is 6 seconds of very shaky video.
Right.
So what is your contention there?
When I say unjustifiably killed, I'm speaking through the lens and eyes of my client.
Okay.
So in his mind, when he sees the video and he sees his son being killed, he thinks it's unjustifiable, it's horrific, it's tragic. Do you know what it's like to see your son or daughter being killed?
No, thank God I don't.
Your bloodline? I know you don't. I didn't mean to offend you when I said that. I have a son. If I saw my son being killed by somebody, I don't know how I would behave. And I don't have a mental history. Well, some might argue that I do, but I don't. So my point is that type of event would trigger a normal person, let alone a person with a history of mental illness.
Can you walk me through that a little bit more? Taking into account what the family has said in your investigation as to what happened at that point. So he watched the video, he had to be driven home because he was so distraught. He was taken back to wherever that was, wherever they watched the tape.
To get his vehicle.
To get his vehicle.
Correct.
And then at that point, did he go straight over to UC?
He's going home.
He was going home.
Which would take you that route.
Okay. So he was going home, but on the way home is when he took a detour and went to UC.
No, that is not a detour.
Okay, what was it?
That's on the way home.
Okay, so he's driving on the way home past UC.
Correct.
And what happens?
There's a claim that when he was on Martin Luther King Drive, he stopped his car and he accelerated and struck a police officer, or Hamilton County Deputy Sheriff. That's the claim, and that's what the video depicts.
And tell me more about that investigation, your side and what the family says and what he says about that.
The family doesn't know what happened then because they were not with him. So, but based on the information that I have, that is a claim that is made by the government. Now, have I verified for a fact that that has actually happened? No, because I haven't seen all of the discovery. But based on what I've seen, that is the claim.
Okay.
What I do know.
So
listen,
so that's
I'd
where
fire
I'm
him
at.
today.
So that's where we're at with that. The thing with
I'd fire him today. I'd fire the attorney today. I'd fire him right now, because there is no way he should have been given what his strategy is. That was the dumbest
I agree.
thing any attorney could have done. Let's not even talk about the merits of the case right
Right,
now.
right.
And this is where we are, right? We think that we got to jump ahead of this so we can get justice. Newsflash, he is never, ever going to be free. That's one. Number two, history shows that even if he was justified in some kind of way, he killed the cop. Number three, it doesn't matter what kind of mental illness he had. It doesn't matter. The officer Henderson had nothing to do with this. Period. That's humanity. That's back to human rights again. He had nothing to do with it. Period.
Right.
And as far as the merits of what his son did, I don't know all of the details, but if he had a gun, the process is different even for reasonable people, even for reasonable blacks. This is not a case we should be doing anything but praying for the victims, because this is something that they put out there for us to grab onto. It's a red herring. We're fighting about something that is about as ridiculous as I just said earlier, me getting crowdfunding for paying for a lawyer for me robbing a bank.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. Let this process work itself through. Somebody's dead. An officer is dead who was directing traffic, kind of keep people from killing each other. He's dead, and this man's son is dead.
Yeah.
That is what we should be talking about as far as the prayer we need to have.
Right.
This attorney getting on TV was a prime example of what we do, the knee-jerk reactions that we have, thinking that that interview is going to give us some type of justice. Well, that ain't going to happen.
Well, I purposely
It ain't going to
and I
happen.
purposely
Somewhere
played that
along
one.
the line,
I purposely
we going to
played
feel
that
like
that was
that,
if you notice, that was on Fox News, and that I purposely played that one because the whole point of that was the claim of insanity. And I want to rewind it back a little bit because to me, you're absolutely right. He gave out too much stuff that he should have been talking about, especially on TV, live TV. So I want to rewind it back to a more serious concern. From what we understand, he watched the body cam video at the police station or where he was at watching the body cam video and was so distraught, and some hours after that ran over a cop. So, because you're hearing it from all different sources, my question to you is, not saying right or wrong, I'm not looking for right or wrong. Is it possible for a person to be upset in that sense and commit another crime because they're not in their right state of mind at that moment?
of course it's possible.
Yeah.
Of course it's possible.
Yeah.
But in the context of what we're four brothers are gathered here today, it is almost like we could be talking about something, maybe the Carmelo Anthony thing, but this case is going to become a racism thing only when and if somehow there is a miscarriage of justice to prosecute both the cops if they done it unfairly and this guy if he killed this officer. It's proven that he killed this officer. That's going to be a miscarriage of justice no matter what color the person is. I'm just being really careful because, again, they throw us these bones. They let us have these arguments about things that I always call it dilute our argument about justice. This is not one of those clear and distinct racism things. This guy got angry, and I'm sure I would get angry, right? My son was shot by another African American. Thank God he lived through it. But the first thing I did was, where's my son? I want to see my son. I want to find out if he's okay. I don't know how I would have reacted, but whether the guy was black or white, I don't know if it made any difference to me at the point. But again, Officer Henderson is dead. And I think that at the minimum, humanity tells us, being victim of a country that's treated us like garbage, we ought to at least take a pause and say, Imagine his kids, his grandkids, his grandfather. What are they thinking now about us if we jump on this bandwagon and fight this fight? I don't think that that's fair to us.
I think also as a well, before I go ahead, Lawrence, Greg, you guys want to chime in on that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is black folks. If Fox News call you, don't answer the phone. let me just put that out there.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, they have an agenda that they want to push out there, and it's not to make you look good, and it's not to help you in any way. So if they call you, don't answer the phone. My brother, he's a hungry attorney. He's out here. This is his first big case, I'm sure, that's national, and he's trying to put his name out there, right? So I can't knock him for it, but I can knock him for you did your client no favors by doing that interview. You did your whole defense no favors by doing that interview. We can go back to the last story. I think crowdfunding could have helped in this situation. We could have got this brother a better attorney. So in this situation, it could have been used for good, right? Not saying that he's going to be set free from this, but this is an opportunity for him and his family to have their story told in a way that is at least shining some light on that young man's life that was lost, right? And now we have a officer whose life was just lost, and it didn't have to happen that way. Unfortunately, and this goes back to the mental health of people in America, period, especially Black folks. We just saw George Floyd. We just saw Breonna Taylor. We just saw so many others because this has always happened. It's just now there's more cell phones and cameras and all the things available, and now we're seeing it in real time. The mental toll that any of us has had just seeing all of these Black bodies and these Black faces dying week after week by the hands of police officers, right? It has to weigh on you, right? I know me growing up in St. Louis, I got pulled over so many times just for existing. Now there were times I was poor. So there were times, my tags wasn't right. I probably should have got pulled over, right? But it's how they treated me after the fact, during that pullover, that maybe shaped my ideas about policing and how they treat people, right? I don't know how I would act if I saw that. I don't think I would have got any random officer. Just saying, my anger and my frustration would have went towards the officer involved. Not saying that's right either, but I'm saying my thought process, I wouldn't just like any random officer just go and kill him or whatever. It takes me to that movie, A Time to Kill, right? That situation, Samuel L. Jackson, I don't know if I would not have done the same thing. And I don't know the brother who's going through this, who killed the officer. I don't know his mental state, but I can only imagine in that moment of time, he just pushed all his chips in and said, I can't take it no more. And this was the only way he can express his anger, his frustration, his sadness. I can imagine just how sad he is right now because he feels powerless. Yeah. If he has other children, now he's been pulled away from his other children, right? So there's one bad decision started another bad decision, which starts more bad decisions. And until somebody stops this craziness that we're going through, it's going to continue. There's always going to be an opportunity for people to always find a way to make Black and white people hate each other, not want to be around each other, want to fight all the time. Now, not only we have Black versus white, we got Black versus police, right? And those sometimes are Black people, And so it's this thing where as a Black person, you don't know who to trust. You don't know, you don't really know how to express yourself when you're frustrated, when you're mad, when you're angry, unless you get help and you surround yourself with good people to to kind of bounce things off of. And not everybody has that maturity to sit there and be like, hey, Lamar, this just happened. I'm frustrated. I got to get this off my chest. Or I have a counselor I can go talk to. Not everybody has that. So this young man obviously didn't have that circle. They tried to when they took him away from that police department, tried to calm him down. And they thought he was calm, but he just snapped. And again, it's one of those deals where you just don't know the mental state of everybody, and people go through things.
So
And go ahead.
let's unpack that right there, because that's an important point. Every Black person in this country has been living under the thumb of oppression. And oppression causes a trauma to your psyche. And each of us have had different ways that we've had to put together to survive it, to get to where we are now. I couldn't be 70 years old with the education that I have. And I'm educated. I'm not degreed, but I tell them I'm undegreed. I'm not uneducated. Because my mom always taught me that once you get knowledge, they can't take it away from you. But how we deal with that trauma is specific to each of us, and God made us each individually unique. So what Lawrence has had to do in his process in St. Louis was different than what I had to do in my process in Cleveland. And I don't know where Mr. Smith is coming from, but I'm sure he had another different process. And we're all under that. And people want to make it a cookie cutter thing, and they don't want to recognize individuality. They want to make Blackness and whiteness either or thing. And it is not. We have emotions. You have to connect to that spirit of God in you. And that's why Lamar know that I am down for building community. Lamar,
Yeah.
we are putting back together that men's prayer circle.
Oh, that's what's up. That's what's up.
And we're going to expand it. We're going to expand it and make it ecumenical, so any young man, anybody can come and be a part of it. And we're going to make that something like Dr. Black says, rites of passage. We're going to try to find a way to connect and give brothers some options, because like Lawrence said, that brother in his state, however he's had to shape his mind to be where he's at, and he think he's doing the right thing, and then they kill my son.
Do you think
if you can't sit and lament with that, something wrong with you?
and going down that same vein, I know EB had mentioned earlier about watching dealing with George Floyd and these different issues that we've had. It's if you recall, three of the officers that killed Tyreek, I think it's Tyreek Nichols, from I think it was last year before last. It was 5 Black officers that was in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take it back to policing has not been the white versus Black. In reality, it's been policing versus Black in that reality, because it doesn't matter the ethnicity of the officer. It's the mindset of what that officer has when he see a Black person who he perceives as a crime. And if you think about it from that perspective, it doesn't matter who the criminal, who that officer was, the ethnicity of that officer. And so that Tyreek Nichols situation made it more evident to me, although I've heard this and knew this, it made it more evident to me that it's an issue with policing more so than the Black-white issue with policing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But let's talk about policing, right? The original policing was started by merchants who wanted to protect their workforce, get them off of the lines and get them back to work, and to snitch on each other. And it's the goon squad, the slave squad, right? That premise is still going on human
Yeah.
rights
Right.
again. If we told police officers and demanded that no matter what happens and no matter who it is, you need to respect a person's human rights and push that instead of the laws of the land and the laws of the United States, we would see different outcomes.
Oh,
And one of the
definitely.
reasons why we don't is because police officers now, it's the elite now, and everyone
It's
wants to be in an elite group.
it,
And the black people and the Hispanics and all the people that's part of this group now don't want to be ostracized. So they couldn't stand up like Brother Greg and Lawrence and say, "Hey, look, I'm not doing that. I don't want no part of that." These people are worried about their pensions. They worry about their staying in the
Right.
neighborhood. If I get fired as a cop, you know what that looks like,
Yeah.
right? If I get laid off as a cop,
let's
you know what that looks like. Why don't they respect the fact that these people, when you pull me over, treat me like a human being?
Right.
I got to answer the background. Um, Community policing. If you came out of high school and went to the police academy, the lessons that you learned there would help you be a good cop,
Yeah.
a community cop. My father was a vice detective, became the first black deputy chief of police of Cleveland. But every year he'd have a party on New Year's Day and invite all the people that he knew,
Mhm.
criminals, whoever, so that they knew who these children belonged to,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So when they saw me in the street, I got treated a bit differently than some of the others by those in those questionable lifestyles.
Right.
But time has passed, and if you had police on your record coming from the military,
Right.
then you learned a different kind of policing when you're a police to occupy a territory,
Right.
because now you have some power.
Right.
Now you expect to be respected. You're going to obey me because I got this gun in my hand and I am free to use it.
Yeah.
And you can't unlearn that
Yeah.
coming back into society. And look at how many of the police that are in the police force today have military backgrounds in policing.
Yeah.
And that's two different kinds of
Yeah.
policing.
Yeah. I'm going to hold it right there for a second. I got 2 minutes or 1 minute. I got two more things I want to bring up and just going to give you brief comments on it. Right now, Congress is looking to intervene into the NIL with athletes. We've seen a lot of our young college kids really excel from a financial standpoint to change their lives and their family lives for generations to come, from marketing and everything. Nick Saban has been very voiceful over it after he made his tens of millions of dollars through the backs of black athletes. But real briefly, roundtable, what's your take on NIL, and should it continue as it is, EB, or should it be controlled?
In 22, they made $17.5 billion. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Anybody that says that they shouldn't be sharing that money with the people that's doing the work, something's wrong with their brain.
Okay, got you. What you got on that, Lawrence?
Yeah, it should stay as it is. I mean, here's the deal. It depends on what's more important to you. And a lot of people just like, well, these kids they just keep leaving. They keep bouncing around back and forth from school to school because they're chasing the bag, they're chasing the money. I think we all do that every day.
Yeah.
I
No.
think I think if another company called you and said, hey, we'll give you 10 more a year to come work for us, we out.
Right. So
what's wrong with these 18, 19, 20-year-old kids securing their lives, helping their mothers, their fathers, their family, helping? It helps start the process of generational wealth,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now you gotta spend the money properly, right?
Right.
But if 10% of these young black men and women take this money, reinvest and build on it, and let's say they don't even have a real good professional career after that, they take that money, now they're investing in real estate, now they're starting businesses, now things are changing. Now not only is America getting browner, browners getting richer at the same time.
Yeah. No.
And that's
right.
the part they're really not talking about. They're talking about all these other things.
Yeah.
But let's talk about these black folks got money now.
Yeah.
They're buying property, they're buying land, they're buying real estate. They are now, not only are we going to be the minority, now we got to work for these Negroes.
Yeah. Right.
Because now they're going to own companies.
Right.
And so that's another part of it too.
Yeah. So, Greg, what's your take on it? And one thing I want to bring in is that the complaint is some of these lower schools like HBCUs may not be getting the athletes because they don't have the money, or their community don't have the money for the NILs, for the money to pay out. So what do you think, Greg?
With the NIL, envision this. It's a snapshot of what it would be like to have guaranteed income. And we got our children in a place of learning, and we can get them to understand finances and how to use your money. That's a guaranteed income that they got for at least 4 or 5 years.
Is that sustainable? The NIL deal,
and that's sustainable. That's something that they're not going to dock your pay. They're not going to, and all you got to do is make the grade.
Well, sustainable
make
in
the
a
grade
sense, college-wise. Can the universities
right.
or well, corporations spend money all the time.
That's not even a question. Our voices in Congress that will, in years, talk about having this country have a guaranteed income. Because we're rich enough in this country that everybody should not have to want for certain things that push the crime rate.
Right.
Everybody had food.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm saying the last one, we got a new Pope. Pope Louis XIV. Okay. I don't know how many people knew this beforehand.
Leo XIV.
What I say?
Leo the 14th.
Oh, what I say? What did I say?
Louis.
Leo.
Louis.
I'm sorry, Leo the 14th. My bad. It ain't Louis for sure. Leo the 14th. Now, as we know, I want to get the correct thing here because this is going to be our last one. So Louis the 14th, he was born Robert Francis Prevost, has African Creole ancestry through his material lineage tracing back to the black community in New Orleans. His mother, Mildred Martinez, was the daughter of black property owners, including a Haitian-born father and a Creole mother. While he has not publicly commented on his racial identity, genealogists have confirmed his African roots. I don't think too many Americans knew that when they saw this man walk across, came out there.
But you know what? The key part is, it doesn't matter.
It don't, but
because
you know us, though.
If he is the representation of Christ, he needs to do the work.
Do the work.
Hold the government accountable.
Yeah.
One that got on the steps of and stopped the Attila the Hun from continue to attack Rome. He was a negotiator, and what he said in his first speech, this Pope did was, "Peace be unto you."
Yeah.
Also, he reminded everyone that evil, watch this, cannot win. That's all I need.
Yeah.
I don't need that because exactly where he stands at least for now. Let's see what he does.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I just looked at it, America. We here. And he's an American Pope. That's the thing about it was, he's an American Pope. But I hope he does a great job. You two want to chime in on this, the new Pope that we have? Greg?
Yeah. All I can say is these good American Christians, they're just rolling over in their graves right now. They know this, like, oh, what do we do?
that was a sneak move, wasn't it?
Hey, it was.
that just was that God does have a sense of humor,
and He's in control.
That what you think prepared for evil, God can turn it to good in a heartbeat. And so we still have to be focused on love. All I have to do is act justly, love mercy, and walk with my God.
So I want to thank you all for joining us today. This was an excellent conversation. I want to thank EB for coming out. I'm definitely going to have him back on again.
Yeah.
Again, the great seeing Greg and Lawrence. Anybody got any special plans for Mother's Day tomorrow, right quick?
It's gonna be a good husband. That's all I'm gonna do, man. I'm
My,
just gonna do what I'm
Any
gonna
mine
plans?
starts today and tomorrow at some point. So I got a lot going on.
do. See my mother, take care of my wife, and do what I gotta do and be
Right.
happy.
I'm still blessed with my mom and dad. My dad is total care at home, and my mom had cataract surgery Thursday.
Okay.
It went well.
Okay, great.
And we just gonna spend time with mom and dad, love them while we got them.
Gotcha. I'm gonna just take my wife out. Me and my son that lives here. We're taking. He's taking his wife, and me and taking my wife out to dinner tomorrow afternoon. We're gonna go to church. I'm serving today at church, and I got to serve tomorrow. And I told him, I said, I can only go for so long tomorrow because we got 3 services on Sunday. They might be a little peeved at me, but I'm like, I can only do the first service tomorrow because I'm with my wife, you know. And it's just, you know, when I look at it, just the 2 of us here, you know, I said her son, which is my stepson, moved here 2 years ago, him and his wife, and they got a little daughter. So, but for the first 7 years, it was just been me and my wife here. So we've always tried to embrace those holidays together because it's just us. I'm going to definitely talk to my mom again tomorrow. You know, she's in Cleveland, and wish her happy Mother's Day, and just pray that all our moms stay safe.
Go
Same for you all
Cavs.
moms. Go Cavs. You know,
I knew that was gonna come in
go
somewhere.
Cavs. Go Cavs. We can do this. We can do this. So, with that being said, we're out. Stand by after I throw this logo up, and we can debrief for a quick second.